Hi, babes.
Hey.
I'm Destiny.
I'm Sierra.
Welcome back to Blended the Podcast. Today, we're going to be bringing you an episode talking about setting boundaries, creating policies, and relationships with your clients.
Ooh.
Boundaries.
I really like boundaries.
I do too.
They're new though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing what to tolerate and what not to tolerate is honestly, boundaries in general.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to get clear on what you want in your business, who you want in your business, so that you then know what those boundaries mean. I know I really struggled in the beginning with boundaries and not compromising my schedule for clients or discounting for clients or not charging for stuff. And it just continues to just drag you down the hill.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of new business owners, or if you're new to a profession, it's really easy to let go of those boundaries and standards.
Yeah.
And compromise yourself, your business, your
Discount
income.
your value.
Yeah, 100%. You have to know yourself and you have to know where you struggle.
Yeah.
So for me, I really struggled in the beginning charging for everything.
Me too.
And how it would come about was I wouldn't have a full conversation with the client about pricing is determined based off of how much color I use.
Yeah.
And so maybe a client, it would take me 2 extra bowls than normal. And so I just wouldn't charge for it.
Wouldn't charge a bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to get super clear in the beginning and really break it down and be like, okay, so this is where my pricing starts. It is based off of how much color I use. And I would always honestly tell them more. It's better to charge someone less than charge them more. So I can be we're probably going to need 3 to 4 extra bowls, knowing I'd probably need 2 to 3.
Yep.
But that also came with taking time in the beginning of my service and not just jumping into it. And so then we already had that conversation. And so I think money is just such an uncomfortable conversation with people.
Always.
Yeah. And so again, setting those boundaries, because at the end of the day, it was my time, my product, I needed to charge accordingly for that. Or I'd be really bad about staying late for someone or coming in on a day. Yeah, you're really bad about that one. I saw your face. I was low key.
I've gotten better.
You have. No, you have for sure.
I literally just did set boundaries. And actually it was funny because my clients responded so well and I didn't expect them to. Not that I expected them to respond badly.
Exactly.
I was just you guys are just so used to me doing all these things. And they've always said how appreciative they are of those things and how they really appreciate that I go the extra mile and get them in and do these things. And I was always yeah, it's fine. And then I was wait a minute. I am already at the studio 40 hours a week. Not only am I there 40 hours a week, I am doing hair and makeup services as well. So that's already more than the average person works. And I'm still coming in extra, staying later.
And it's hard because you do genuinely love and care about your clients and want to go above and beyond for them. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
But you can't compromise yourself for it. Conversations that I've had to have with clients, you have to normalize the situation to something that they understand.
Exactly.
So I've had a situation where I literally had a client negotiate my pricing with me. I told her, if your job asked you to come in and work for less than you were supposed to, you would not be okay with that and you wouldn't do it. Yeah. And so that's what you're asking me to do. And so sometimes when you're having those hard conversations, number one, honestly, that client shouldn't have been in my chair because I shouldn't have been having that conversation. Yeah, that was before I knew who my ideal client was. Yeah. But if you're at a point where you are having to have those tough conversations and build boundaries with your clients because they're not your ideal client yet, I would just kind of put them into the situation. Hey, Sierra, do you want to come in on Saturday when you're only scheduled from Monday to Friday? Do you want to miss out on your son's soccer game? Do you want to miss out on your family gathering? No, and neither do I. And so I need you to respect my schedule just as your job respects your schedule.
I'm so thankful I haven't had that conversation because that would be very hard for me.
Yeah.
What made me actually respect myself in making those boundaries was when I came home and I remember Dante was talking to me and he was like, Sierra, you are essentially working overtime at a regular job, a 9 to 5. That's time and a half. You should be making that at least.
Right.
And I was like,
and that's so true because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with coming in later or coming in on days off, but
that's fine.
You do need to be charging accordingly for that.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And also like, because that's the thing, it's like different people are in different seasons of their life. Like me, I have a kid. If I'm working more than I'm supposed to, that means missing out on time with my kid. And he's the most important to me. But like in my single days, I didn't really mind working the hours that I did, you know, but I should have been compensating myself for that. Like if my hours are 9 to 5, but I'm staying for someone at 8, I don't mind doing that necessarily, but there does need to be like an additional charge because those are out of office like hours. Yeah. So I think that that's important to know. We've emphasized this a lot. Your business is your business. And what we do.
I love that. That should be on a t-shirt. We should put
your
that on
business
a t-shirt.
is your business, boo-boo.
Yeah.
And you need to know what's important for you and not what everyone else is doing. Recently, we were talking about hustle culture. If someone wants to work as much as they do, that's fine.
Yeah, that is 100% your prerogative.
Yes. And when we're talking about hustle culture, we're not ever downing anyone for the decisions that they're making for their business. So like if you want to work that much, that's fine. But make sure it's what you want to do and not what someone else is forcing you to do.
Yes.
And I think that that's the most important thing when you're creating those boundaries. Like if there are certain things that your client is asking you to do, that's fine if you want to do it, but make sure like
it's what you want.
Yeah. And you're not being pressured into doing that.
Yeah.
Creating boundaries with clients, I know was hard for me too, because your clients are your friends.
Yes.
Especially when you're attracting your ideal client.
Yeah.
So like, do you hang out with your clients?
So I hang out with my clients, but there are limits to what I'll do. So like, I won't have clients at my house, but if my client's like, hey, girl, you want to go grab a bite or a coffee or like, you know, like a girl date. Of course, I'm totally down to do that. And then I actually find that I learn so much about them, but because of who my ideal client is, I feel like there's just that level of like similarity and community within them.
Yeah.
Like I have one client, she writes blogs for photographers and she was like, hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to do lunch or something? And I was like, I have no idea what this is going to be like, but why not? And I did it. We went, she talked to me all about her business and like I talked to her and we understood, like there's an understanding that like, this is us building a friendship outside of you coming to me. And she understands like once she's in the door, like the professionalism is there.
Yeah. And I think as far as hanging out with your clients, I think that the narrative does change when you're attracting your ideal client.
Yeah.
Because they do respect you as like a business owner.
Yeah.
I do have clients who like same thing. I'll go grab lunch with, or I've been invited to their kids' birthday parties and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they respect me as a business owner and know that like business is business and personal is personal.
Yeah.
Because I've also had a situation where before I had my boundaries in my business and I would become friends with my clients, especially when I was a younger stylist.
Oh, well, yeah.
And then, you know, I would excuse them being late or canceling last minute or not taking care of their hair. And
See,
it was
my
really
issue was
hard.
that regardless of if I hung out with them or not.
Yes. But I struggled when I did start making that transition and create boundaries in my business and policies. And then it was like, I had these policies in place, but like I wasn't implementing them with everyone because I was like, you're my friend, you know?
Yeah.
But that was a personal problem for me. And I think it's important to know who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Like some people are really good at setting those like, you're my friend, this is my business, like whatever. And I know that that's something I struggle with when I genuinely care about someone. Like it's easy for my heartstrings to be pulled and for me to be a little more sympathetic towards them. Where if it's like business, I'm more like, it is what it is. You didn't show up to your appointment, your card's being charged, you know?
Which I love that you do that, by the way. Like I feel like I would have like a mini heart attack if I was like, you didn't show up, you paying.
Yeah.
But honestly, kudos to every person who does that.
And so like, we'll go into detail about setting up those policies and it's hard to enforce sometimes, but then it's like, it's just there. So
speaking of policies.
Yeah.
What are policies that you've set in place that you feel like have benefited you?
So kind of how I talked about before, how like going over pricing before a client like is getting their hair done. I find that for me, just being like upfront about everything before anything's booked is what works for me. And like also listing the multiple times. So kind of my process for booking, the policies start from there. So the number one policy and the boundary that I create is before I give you any information or pricing, you have to fill out my new client form. So that is a boundary for me because I'm not spending my time having conversations with someone that isn't necessarily valued enough to deserve my time.
I have a client intake form too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a boundary because it's like, okay, I'm not going to sit and text back and forth with you.
And that's why I started
until I know that like this is a serious conversation. And even from there, I personally don't do in-person consultations. There are rare occasions where I request it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not requesting it and they want to come in, it's something that I charge for. Because again, I'm creating that boundary of like not wasting my time on someone who isn't serious about booking an appointment. So that's my first boundary as far as booking an appointment. After they do the intake form, we do our consultation call. Before they are able to secure an appointment on my book, they have to pay a non-refundable deposit. I explain to them that if something happens, they have one chance to change their appointment, but it has to be at least 48-hour notice. The second time, their deposit is not going to be refunded back to them and they have to do a new one. Mm-hmm. So I explain that to them in my consultation call. I actually have a script. I have it memorized now, but I had a script so that I didn't forget to hit those bullet points.
That's important.
So before the appointment is secured, deposit is paid and card is on file. So how I get their card on file is I send them an invoice and the invoice allows for them to save their card on file with me. I have all of my salon policies written out on my intake form. So it's like my late policy, my rescheduling policy, card on file policy. They have to agree to that before they can even submit the intake form. I also bring that up again during my consultation call. Before you need to book, I'm going to send you an invoice over. Yes, they get it said to them about 5 times. I'm not even joking. And they have to, again, agree to my policies. I also send them a contract, a new client contract. So I've got in writing twice that they have agreed to my policies, my intake form and my new client contract.
She said no chargebacks.
My new client contract also goes over home care. And these are what can happen if you do not take care of your extensions.
Yeah.
So setting those boundaries before they've even sat down in my chair, you've now told me twice that you respect my policies, that you agree to them, and that you're okay with them. When I've had situations where clients don't show up or they're canceling last minute, 9 times out of 10, they're bringing up the charge before I even have to because they've agreed to it. I've also had clients who literally tell me that they appreciate that I do that because it represents to them that I'm serious, that I don't joke around, and that if I expect for them to respect me in that way, they know that I'm going to respect them in that way too.
Yeah.
So it ends up working great for you. I actually just had a consultation yesterday and she's like, I love that you're interviewing me and asking me all these questions. Like I've never had that.
And that's your ideal client though.
I've also had someone literally cuss me out for asking and be like, why are you interviewing me? I'm paying you money.
Oh, I remember that.
So I've had both ways, you know? Yeah. So those are kind of some of the boundaries that I set. It's not even honestly a conversation. It's just like,
you have to put the card on file.
Yeah, your card. You put your card on file. I did it. They put it on file. So it's like if you didn't show up to your appointment, your card's just being charged. So if they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I had to cancel," whatever, I'm like, "No worries. I'm going to go ahead and charge your card on file, and then as soon as that payment goes through, we can go ahead and schedule your next appointment." I've only had maybe 1 or 2 times where someone went and canceled the card and it didn't work. But when I think back to who that person was, they weren't my ideal client. And then my ideal client wise, I've only had to charge someone's card maybe like 2 or 3 times in the past 3 years.
I feel like we talked every time.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie. It does get to me. It does. But you have to set that boundary because, and guys, there's been situations where I've had a client who's been my client for a long time and their kid gets sick. Trust your gut. I'm like, I know that this is a one-time thing. Sometimes I'll even do like, I'll only charge you 50% because my policy is 100% after 48 hours, but my appointments are a lot longer too. So
you're like giving them a day.
Yeah. If you're canceling on me, like
you can't,
you know,
that.
Yeah. So it does kind of just depend on your business, your time, what you're willing to do or not do. But I have had situations where someone's gotten sick and I'm like, hey, this is your first time. So I'm only going to charge you 50%. Or if maybe they're my last client of the day. And so like, it doesn't really affect my books.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, like this time it's totally fine. I do just want to remind you of my policy that you agreed to.
Yeah.
Maybe send it over just to reiterate. Sometimes I'll even like post something online or like just touching base with them every once in a while to just kind of like remind them. But they all know.
Yeah.
Like, they just know.
Mine know too because of my intake form with Calendly. They get sent over all of my policies right when they book. You have to put a deposit down before you book with me. And it tells you that there is a cancellation policy as well. So that if you do not show up to your appointment, that deposit is now forfeited.
Yeah.
Because that deposit holds your appointment slot.
Right. And it's guaranteeing you that even if it's not the same amount, like not only is the deposit good to secure you payment, but it also shows you that your client is serious.
Yes.
Because no one's going to pay a deposit with no intention of actually showing up.
No,
like,
and I've noticed that the people who get in my DMs and they're upset about the deposit, I'm like, you're not my ideal client.
Yeah.
And if you're upset about the deposit, you're probably not trying to show up.
Yeah, because if you're going to come anyways, and exactly.
That's why you're worried about it.
Right.
Because you think you're not going to get your money back.
Right. So those boundaries also set you up.
But I'm not going to get my time back. So.
Bye. Those boundaries also help to eliminate the clients who aren't supposed to be in your chair either. So they are really so important. I think it's also important to have someone that you can text. Like, I'm freaking out right now. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, like me and you immediately.
Exactly.
Oh, I also have the same policy where I have a one freebie. Like everyone gets one free pass.
But honestly, do you tell them?
Now I do. I didn't used to. And when I didn't used to, people were abusing it and they didn't even realize that they'd gone through 1, 2, a third.
But do you tell them up front, like you have one freebie, or when it happens, you tell them you have one freebie?
I tell them when it happens.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm like, I feel like if you tell them like up front, like, oh, you get one freebie, then it's like,
I feel like that gives them incentive to use it.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to do that now.
But that is so important. I think it is important to let people know when you are
like, hey, that's totally fine. I completely understand. Everyone gets like one freebie. I understand like life happens, things happen. Just know that next time, your deposit will not be put towards your next appointment.
Yeah. I think that's important to communicate. That's something I've learned recently. It's important to communicate the things that you are doing for your clients that are not your standard.
Yeah, but if you're a no-call, no-show the same day, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, bye.
No.
And my policy, like you're no call, no show, like you're never booking with me again. Like not only are you paying, but like also like that doesn't happen. Like that doesn't happen with me.
No.
I feel like
it happened with me at the beginning, but now.
Well, and I feel like it's different too because like lashes, like people are going to book for like a special event. Like no one's going to just like randomly book a hair extension appointment like the week of for an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yeah. And that's why it's important to know your business, to know like who's going to normally be coming to you, because like lashes, nails, those are totally things where you're going to have like randoms just wanting to get it done.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have those deposits in place, those cards and files in place. You know, my clients are like coming to me a lot back and forth, which like I know you have as well. But like I'm definitely not having someone like the week of. I mean, I do have people like, do you have an appointment this week? And I'm like, you want a 7-hour service? Like a 5 to 7 hour service?
But I don't think they understand that
tomorrow.
Either. I feel like the people who are asking that don't do the research first.
Yeah, or they're used to just like getting extensions slapped in their head and like not getting the experience.
That's a whole nother
that
thing.
I give them. That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
So I hope that those little like tips and tricks helped as far as like setting your boundaries and knowing how important it is for your business to successfully run. If you guys ever have a situation that you have questions about, you're dealing with a client and don't know how to set those boundaries with them, or wondering like what you should set in place for your business, you can always reach out to us on Instagram, blended_podcast. Either Sierra or I will get in contact with you. The beautiful thing is that our boundaries in our business are so different. And so we're able to relate to so many different people because we kind of approach things differently. So we'll be able to give you advice kind of, you know, off of what we suggest and what we think.
Yeah. And also I want you guys to share with us what you do and how you have your boundaries set in place and what works for you in your business, because I feel like this is, again, a community and we can all learn from each other. And
even conversations, like we're best friends and talk about everything. And I think like even conversations we have on this chair, we're like, oh shoot, like
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Or like, that's a really good point. So it is. Yeah. We love when you guys like talk with us and tell us what you think. Like we are not sitting here as the experts. We are sitting here as like the communicators.
Yeah.
So we just want you guys to be part of the conversation too.
Make sure that you are knowing your business, setting contracts in place, knowing those boundaries. You can get deposits and set cards in file, and make sure that your business works for you and you're not working for your business.
Thanks for being our blended babes, aka BBs. Join the conversation and let your voice be heard. If you're ready for a revolution, don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, and follow the journey on Instagram at blended_podcast.
Share this episode with your BB who is ready to beautify the beauty industry and rewrite the standards.
Get all the tea from this episode and more in the show notes.
Bye.